Thursday, April 9th, 2020 at 12 noon. Just as a note to everybody that's on and watching and for the recording, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020, certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, section 330A, paragraph 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations of the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Chelmsford Board of Selectmen will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines of remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting may be found on the town's website at www.chelmsford.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by accessing the Chelmsford Telemedia website, www.chelmsfordtv.org. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Thank you. First on our agenda, and everybody can see the agenda on the screen, correct?
Yes, thank you.
So the first thing we'll discuss is the extension of the due date of the property tax bills until June 1st. And so I'll bring up the acts act to address the challenges faced by municipalities and state authorities resulting from the COVID-19 outbreak. Paul, do you want to just give us a quick synopsis? You got on mute.
And you need to scroll down on the agenda, I think.
So that's our extension. So you want me to scroll down here?
All I'm seeing is the first page that says pursuant to Governor Baker's.
So it's not moving back and forth?
Not on mine.
I'm on.
Hey, George.
Hi, George.
Hello, George.
Hi, folks. How are you? I'm sorry, not been here since 11, but whatever. How's everybody? Okay, go ahead.
Let me just see if I can get this shared. So
There you go. That's better.
So here's your agenda.
Yep.
And with the extension for the due date of the property tax bills, I'll scroll down to that section. All right, Paul, you want to give us an overview?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll provide some introductory comments and then turn it over to John Souza, our finance director, who really administers the related matters. Last Friday, the governor signed into law Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020. And again, this is another act pertaining to the coronavirus crisis and how cities and towns can best respond to the needs of the community. And what's taking place here is the legislature has given the communities the local option to extend the due date for property tax bills beyond the traditional date of May 1st, as well as, which is also the deadline for exemption and referral applications pertaining to property tax. And also a third provision regarding the waiving of interest and other penalties for those taxes, bills, charges, betterment assessments, and so forth that were due on or after March 10th. So in essence, what we're seeking here is the vote from the Board of Selectmen to provide an extension of time, given the economic impacts to the businesses and residents and community of the current climate that we're in now from the pandemic result of the coronavirus. And at this point, I'll turn it over to John Souza for more details.
Thank you, Paul. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, what we're seeking to do is to have you vote the 3 different sections. The first one, as Paul said, extends the due date for the 4th quarter property tax bills from May 1st to June 1st. The second clause, B, allows us to extend the due date for tax exemption applications and tax deferral applications to be extended to June 1st. And so that allows residents extra time to submit those to the assessor's office. And then the third clause allows us to, would allow the treasurer collector's office to waive the interest and penalties on any bill that was due on or after March 10th. So this would affect all the motor vehicle excise bills that folks receive that would due like March 17th. There was also some sewer utility bills that were due around that period. So this means that all of these bills from now, basically we will waive the interest on them. Folks have trouble making payment on them. They're due June 1st under state law, but as long as the payment is submitted to my office by June 30th, there will be no interest or penalties. In the memo that I prepared to the board, I did want to explain that, you know, there's, just to give you both sides of the equation, it will definitely help residents. It will affect town revenues somewhat in that we will not be able to issue motor vehicle demand bills to folks that haven't paid. So that will have an impact of, I estimate, because of the lack of being able to do issue demand bills, probably about 124,000, somewhere in that range. We may also forego about another 100,000 in interest. But given the challenges of these times, I think it's something that you know, we can work around fiscally.
To arrive at that 100,000, are you just looking at what you had to do over the last couple of years as far as demands go?
Yes, for many years, the statistics have shown in my office that about roughly 89% of residents pay motor vehicle excise bills on time. And we typically issue demands to roughly 10% or 11% of the remaining bills. And, you know, a small amount of those bills end up being abated, but a lot end up being collected. Some eventually are turned over to our deputy collector for further collection activity.
And based on that 89% that pay and then the 11 that don't, the interest on that 11 is another 100 grand?
Yes, and for that I'm using the town accountant's revenue numbers that from last year. I'm looking at how much we've collected so far in interest and penalties this year, and knowing that if we accept this, we really won't collect hardly any interest from now through the end of the fiscal year. So that's where I'm coming up with a rough figure of 100,000 on interest that we would forego. Okay.
I guess as a note here, because I'm getting a few of these questions texted to me, but if there's anybody watching who can't unmute or can't speak, they can always text me questions and I can read their name and question into the record if that helps anybody. So if you want to text me, my cell phone number is 978-761-0154. Just because someone just texted me, said they can't speak and they had a question. But anyways, as those come in, I'll let people know if they do come in. All right, so Paul, do you need a motion?
I want to notify the board that if you do enact these provisions, we do have to provide notice to the community of the extended deadlines. And that was the addendum that came out from the Massachusetts Department of Revenue Division of Local Services. Originally, one option would be to send a mailing to each of the bill recipients, which, you know, at 50 cents a letter in the time is quite costly and timely. However, they did come out with the addendum that you received that basically we would post notice of the extended deadlines on the town's website, social media accounts, and also by utilizing the reverse 911 notification system. And with that, we would probably put this notice along with others so that we're not just going to put a call out on the code red.
I'm sorry. So Paul, the reverse 911 would reach people who don't have internet access?
Yes, it would reach everybody who's registered in our system in town. And I think Chief Spinney told me that's well over 30,000 telephone numbers at this point.
And that seemed to have worked well after our last meeting. I got the reverse 911 shortly after the meeting, and people.
So yes, we would need a motion and a vote to implement this.
before we jump to that, Emily just texted me a question. She said, would the interest and penalties be retroactively waived?
To answer that question, it does not affect any bill that was due before March 10th. So for example, if someone, I'm not sure if this is Emily's question or not, if someone missed paying a property tax bill from last August or November or something like that, or even the February 1st bill, this law would not affect that, so due on that. But this basically affects the fourth quarter bill that would normally be due May 1st, as well as motor vehicle bills and sewer bills that would due after March 10th.
Okay, and then
I don't think we've assessed anybody any penalties since March 10th, right, John?
To the best of my knowledge, no. We're actually, right now, until we knew where this law was going and the board's decision, we've actually been manually waiving interest on. So we have not been charging anyone interest on the sewer bills that were due on March 17th. We have not been charging folks interest on the motor vehicle bills that are being, that were due on March 17th. We are working with our online provider. If someone paid, like March 18th and 19th, there may have been small amounts of cents of interest that were charged, but we're having our online provider, City Hall Systems, change their program because they have a program, as you can imagine, that normally just calculates interest the day after the due date, just because that's the way the law has always worked. But this being special circumstances, so they're actually working on, I just had a confirmation from the head of that company today that they are working actively to make sure that the interest is being waived online.
Okay, and one other question, Emily, as a follow-up, asked, someone had just made mention to letters and she said would postcards be cheaper, but I'm wondering, when you said letters and envelopes.
Ken, your audio cut out. We don't know what you're asking.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Emily had asked about, she said that had mentioned letters and envelopes to notify town residents. Just a few minutes ago, would postcards be cheaper? So how would we?
We're not going to do a mail. We would do the alternative method of website, 911 call, and social media.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we're fortunate that the Department of Revenue changed their requirements and is allowing us to not have to send something to each address, because the text of the notice that they wanted us to send was actually very long, and it would not fit on a postcard, even a large postcard, in my opinion. It was very lengthy. So following this meeting, if the board acts, and approves it, we have a notice that will go on the town's website. It's approximately 2 to 3 pages long, just because of the length of it, and it's very detailed. So
Okay.
that would save the town a lot of postage and time.
I have some concerns with the third one. It seems that if we adopt that and waive all interest and penalties till June 30th, effectively, the first option is we may as well extend the due date to June 30th, because that's what you're giving the taxpayers, is till June 30th without any penalties. I mean,
We don't have that legal authority, Pat. That's the
Pardon me?
problem. We don't have that legal authority. We can only act within what's prescribed by the legislature.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that we don't have to take option 3, right? We can take A and B and not C. Is that correct?
Yes, you can. You can do
Yes.
any or all of the options. I just think you get a lot of blowback if you don't allow the waiver, given the times that we're in.
And also, Pat, if someone goes beyond the June 30th date, then they'll start paying interest. So it's not, they don't necessarily wash each other out. You're just giving a longer grace period before the interest kicks in, given the hardship that many people are in right now.
Okay.
So do we have a motion?
You want to do them one at a time or all 3 together?
I'm here.
Paul, do you mind if we do all three together?
I think you can do all three at once. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we extend the due date of fourth quarter of property tax bills to June 1st, 2020. That we extend a due date for exemptions and deferral applications to June 1, 2020. And we waive interest and late payment penalties for payments due after March 10th, 2020, as permitted under Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020.
Okay, we have a motion. All right, we have a motion and a second for the vote by roll call. So Pat,
Aye.
Virginia,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that's a 5-0 vote. We'll get to item number 5 on the agenda, which is vacate the foreclosure judgment for 39 Dunshire Drive.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn this over to John Souza. You've seen these requests periodically in the past, and John can give you the status and the request on this property.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Similar to what I've brought before you in the past, this is a case where a property was foreclosed for non-payment of several years of property taxes. We followed the legal process, and actually, emergency order was given. The property owner, the case had already gone through land court, and we had received a foreclosure judgment. We then had a civil process server constable serve the property owners with a notice, basically the standard notice saying that they need to pay the town or vacate the premises within 30 days. Just to explain to folks, I did not initiate the contact, but the property owner contacted me recently, offered to submit a check for full payment, and they also paid their current year property taxes online. So they brought everything up to date. So similar to what we've done in the past, I gave you all the background information, and I would just ask you to consider voting to vacate the foreclosure. And I will instruct town council to work on that.
Discussion. We have a motion.
Make a motion to vacate the final judgment covering the tax taking made against Joseph D. Arena and Jean M. Arena for unpaid taxes covering the property at 39 Dunshire Drive, North Chelmsford, upon payment of all taxes, interest, and charges as provided under Mass General Law 6069.
Second.
Motion is second. We'll do this one by roll call. Also, Pat,
Aye.
Virginia,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. So that's a 5-0 vote. We'll move on to we have a new revised sewer grinder pump policy that has been in the works and come forward now.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple months ago, I had the board with a revised grinder pump appeals policy. Since that time, we've reached a final resolution on the Markham complaint, and part of that was a final resolution on the grinder pump appeals policy. And the only change from what you previously endorsed was that the attendance of a technician at a hearing would be at no cost to the property owner. And so basically that's it. That's the resolution of the matter. And if the board votes this, we'll post this on the website and send notice to all the grinder pump property owners.
Okay.
Excuse me, Paul, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
George.
Yes, George.
Has the sewer fairness alliance, been contacted with this?
Oh, yeah.
I thought they had, but yeah, okay, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify.
Support it, and they're actually gonna send out a notice too to their members.
Okay, that's what threw me off when you said you were going to send a notice to them.
Yeah.
Because I
fully
thought
on
I
board.
understood that. Right.
We'll reach
Thank
out
you.
to-
Thank you.
Further discussion? A motion?
Make a motion that we adopt the revised grinder pump appeals policy as presented.
A second.
And roll call on this, Pat,
Aye.
Virginia,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. So that's another 5-0. Moves us on to Paul, the town manager's reports.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just provide you and the community a status of the operations during this COVID-19 public health crisis. We're continuing as we continue in terms of the update we had last meeting. We're continuing to stop the staff in accordance with the guidelines issued by the governor and the president. We're basically trying to work remotely when, to the extent possible, those aspects that are working in the buildings or in the community are doing so in conformance with the guidelines. We have modified police schedules. We have extra firefighters on. We have limited DPW crews, limited facility maintenance crews, and as we noted earlier, we have limited crews in the town offices to maintain essential operations and output. This most notably is a health crisis. So with that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Sue Roser, our health director, who can provide you and the community status in terms of how things are in terms of the public health of the community.
So basically at this point, Chelmsford is no different than our surrounding communities as far as we're continuing to see, an uptick in our cases pretty much on a daily basis. Everybody is aware of the fact that the National Guard came in and helped out the Palm Center earlier this week. And on, I think it was Tuesday, if I have the right date, they actually had tested 21 of their residents. So I anticipate that I'm going to get the results of those tests back anywhere from today through the weekend. So I anticipate a pretty marked increase in our numbers once those results come back. The new public health nurse, Darcy, has been on board now for a couple of weeks. She's up to par with helping do the case follow-up. I have another retired nurse who's going to start helping me with contact tracing. And then I'm working on getting 4 of the school nurses up and running so that they can also help with the contact tracing, especially where they're predicting this surge between the 10th and the 20th. We just need to really try to keep up to pace, because the problem is if the cases come in and we're not able to acknowledge them as soon as they come in and there's a delay, then that's a delay in notifying people of what their isolation dates are, what their contacts quarantine dates are, and we're really trying to keep up with that on a daily basis. As far as the new governor's guidance, as far as the grocery stores, we worked very closely with Sean Shanahan, and all of our grocery stores have new occupancy loads and permits. They've been instructed to post those on the front door of the building. And at this point, all of our grocery stores have actually been a little below what the governor's rates of occupancy have been. I believe that today, Market Basket was getting their shields to put up. They had something different in place. So they're going to now have the same as the other stores. The convenience stores are small enough that it doesn't affect them. We're also reaching out. One of the concerns, and I was getting a lot of concern from community members about the National Guard was available to help only long-term care facilities. And what about our assisted livings who also live in close contact? And we just got notification that now the National Guard will also be able to assist the assisted livings as well as the long-term care. My office is outreaching today to all of the long-term cares and assisted livings to find out what their status is as far as patients and staff that may have symptoms or may be getting tested. I'm getting a daily update from Palm Center because we know that DPH has been helping them out, and the fact, obviously, that the National Guard helped them out. So they're sending me those daily updates, and they are in very close contact with DPH as well as far as what they're doing. I think that's really about it. We're fielding all of the phone calls at the office. You know, we're getting all of the residents who are policing different neighborhoods, and they're concerned about the beaches and different areas that may have people that are gathering around and not going by the 6-foot social distancing rule. And we're trying to follow up on those as much as we can. My health inspectors are going out on a regular basis, and they are making sure that the restaurants that are all doing takeout are also abiding by the social distancing rule as far as what they're doing. And for the most part, all the restaurants are definitely doing a good job. The hard part is still stressing to the community that we need to stay home and that we need to do the social distancing and you need to stay 6 feet away. Some people are doing a really good job and other people aren't, and we really all need to do our part. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Steve Maffetone, you want to give an update?
Sure, Paul. So we've been working with MEMA, and I've been assisting Sue with DPH, submitting our needs for personal protective equipment and hand sanitizer. There is still that we are not getting, there is not much available. We did get a small delivery via the National Guard to the police station the other day. We are still sourcing our own through whatever means we can. We also now are getting requests from nursing homes, funeral homes, as well as other companies that service and related to the COVID-19. So I had one this morning from a company who does medical testing. So we are vetting those with MEMA. We are putting those requests in, but the material is not available out there. So it's still a kind of a dire need for personal protective equipment, as well as hand sanitizers. We're also continuing to track, the departments are tracking their costs so we could submit them at the end of this. Darlene has been attending meetings and things with FEMA for that as well. And the other thing that just keeps coming up is these next few weeks are going to be critical. And as Sue said, we really need to stay home and hopefully not have large gatherings at our houses this weekend, and really try to keep this from spreading. Thanks.
Thank you. Chief Ryan from the fire department.
Good afternoon, all. I hope everybody's doing well. Thankfully, I'm happy to report all our members are doing well. We've had some members who were tested because they were exposed, and fortunately, the results came back negative. So we're thankful for that. Overall, our medical responses for the month of March are down. They're down 20%. And this kind of aligns with the state's goal of trying to reserve capacity at the hospitals for the most critically ill patients, while also encouraging low-risk patients to stay at home if possible. Overdoses are slightly up from this time last year. Last year at this time, we had 7. We're at 9 this year. Last March 2019, we had 2 overdoses. This March, we've had 4. Dependency issues sometimes rise during a crisis, and this is something we are monitoring. Again, it's not a spike, but something where we're keeping an eye on. As Director Rosa said, we are actively monitoring our at-risk facilities. So for the town of Chelmsford, that's Sunny Acres on Barica Road, Chelmsford Crossing on Chelmsford Street, Summer Place on Summer Street, the residents at Freeman Lake at 4 Technology Drive, the Atrium at 2 Technology Drive, LifeLinks has a facility in town, and Fresenius dialysis facility in Industrial Lab. So they're all doing well outside of obviously Palmetto that we talked about, Director Rosa talked about earlier. I know there were some concerns about having a National Guard come out. Just to put in a little perspective, the National Guard has, on the state level, there are 383 nursing homes and 255 assisted living facilities. The National Guard has tested over 2,000 patients statewide at 122 facilities. Statewide, 140 long-term care facilities have at least one COVID-19 patient. So I know there were concerns about the National Guard coming out, but this is something they do. And we're going to see more of it, but they're here to help us. And I would say I would agree with Director Rosa. I think we're all in communication with the at-risk facilities. The communication lines are open, and this is not a situation you probably heard like they had out in Littleton. And we will continue to monitor these facilities. Statewide testing facilities have cropped up in Lowell. I was out there the other day. That's doing very well. Gillette is open for first responders. The Big E in West Springfield has just opened up. So I think as you see these facilities open up and testing improves, you'll see the numbers start to go up. Locally, Harvard Vanguard has repurposed their mobile MRI center. If you're familiar with Harvard Vanguard, that was at the back of the building. They have repurposed that into a testing facility. They handle up to 30 patients a day. Again, my thanks to my department, to the town staff. We communicate every day, and for the community for coming together. I think we're doing a good job. We're working hard. We're communicating. I think we're trying to make the necessary adjustments to try to address the crisis as we see it. So thank you.
Thank you. Police Chief James Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good afternoon. Greetings to the community. I'm also happy to say that as far as personnel goes, we have no one out. We have no one out sick. The patrol force remains robust, and we are able to respond to any public safety incident in town in our normal expedited manner. I'm also happy to announce that we just had 4 officers graduate the police academy, and they started this week, and we will be inserting them into a field training mode for the next several months, albeit it will be modified due to social distancing guidelines. But happy to have them on board. We can certainly use them. I'm happy to say that online reporting and telephone reporting is very cooperative response from the community. I want to thank them for that. Many reports can be handled via the phone and over online, and that's been going very well. That's very much appreciated. Calls for service remain manageable. We have also seen actually a downtick in some of our calls. I will say though that this last week did see a little bit more of a neighbor disturbance type incidents than we saw the week before. Nothing concerning, but a few more than last week as far as just general disturbance type calls. The National Guard did swing by Tuesday and advised us of their arrival in the community, and we offered any assistance they might need from us. We have received a couple calls, not many, about people with social distancing concerns, whether it's some people that hopped the fence down at Varney playing basketball in groups and whatnot. So we obviously respond out there and encourage people to follow the guidelines, and we've moved them along. I'm happy to say that's only happened a couple times. So my request to the community would be, if a gate is locked, if a sign is posted, please adhere to that restriction and don't jump fences or go around closed signs. That would be very helpful. Other than that, I'm just happy to say all is well here at the station. We do have everything we've done over the last couple of weeks is to lower the risk to the officers, and I'm happy to say that has paid off so far. So we're looking forward to just getting through the next few weeks. And I appreciate everybody's cooperation and collaboration in town. Talk every week with DPW, Town Manager's Office, Chief Ryan, Steve Maffetone, Sue Rosa. As far as personal protective equipment, we're in pretty good shape. I will say our reserves are not what I would like them to be, and I appreciate all the effort that Steve is going to get us what we need as this progresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Public Works Director Getty.
Hey, Paul, I had a couple of questions that came in via text from Emily.
Sure.
And this goes back to, I guess, Gary Ryan. You had mentioned a little bit about the substance abuse and things, those numbers. I really want to know if the AA and the NA meetings, are they still ongoing and on an online basis? Do you know, or can you find out?
I can follow up. I think Jen Melanson would probably have more information. I'd be happy to reach out to her. But obviously because of social distancing, they're not gathering at churches.
Right.
But obviously during the time of pandemic crisis, you'll see dependency issues start to rise up. So
Yeah.
I will be happy
And
to
then-
reach out and try to get her the answer.
And then Emily also
Ken,
asked.
Ken, this is Sue. I can actually answer that question. A lot of the meetings have been transferred to online meetings. And I know through the Board of Health, Amanda, who is our health coordinator, has actually posted a lot of that information over the last few weeks on our webpage. So if you want, I could ask her to repost it, so it would be kind of in the forefront of what people are looking at. But they are doing, it's not the same, but a lot of them are doing online virtual meetings.
Could we also post the national helplines for mental health and substance abuse on the town sites? Emily's wondering.
I believe that those are also in some of the links that we have on the town site. If not, then we could certainly work with Mike. Mike is doing a great job with updating our website every day. And if those links aren't there, we can certainly add them.
Thank you. Paul, you wanted to continue?
Okay, yeah, Public Works Director Gary Persichetti.
Good afternoon. Good to see you all. Glad to see everyone staying safe and healthy. Quick update, we are still working with limited staff in all divisions and all is going well. When I left you last on the 27th, we were still talking about what was going on with Southwell and the pipe break. Quick recap, I had left you with dewatering contractor setting up, exposing to the force main so we can cut into it and put a gate in so that we can connect the temporary bypass and then eventually remove the line stop. Since then, like this entire project, it's gone really slow. When you're working next to bodies of water, it's very difficult. We take in a lot of water. The next steps were to start to put in the shoring around the actual area where the pipe break was to do the repair of that. That got done. Then the contractor has to set up the dewatering again. Then they have to dig down to about 14 feet and then they have to weld in more support bars before they continue digging, because the total to get down was about 22 feet to get below the pipe to make the repair. On April 7th, the repair was actually made to the pipe. And then on April 8th, which was yesterday, South Shore came back and they removed the line stop. We shut the gate. We got all the air out of the lines. We primed all 3 pumps, got them up and running, and we're successfully putting the station back in operation 100% as of yesterday, right around 10 a.m. So we are now 100% back on our own means for all of it. The contractor started his removal of all the stuff, which should be done approximately no later than next Wednesday by the time everything's done. So now we'll get to what had happened. Upon examination of the damaged force main, it appears that electrolysis was the cause of the deterioration of the pipe. Okay, the hole was approximately 6 inches at its biggest point, and it was at the bottom of the pipe, and it appeared to have deteriorated from the outside in. So it's sort of like delaminating a pipe. What they mean by electrolysis is what happens is basically there's some current within the earth, and then you have the sand and the surfaces that are underneath it, and they wear on a section of pipe. So of course, other sections of pipe were checked. Everything else seems to be in good shape that we can physically see for distances both ways. A repair was made using a different kind of pipe, which is fully lined and has a coating over the outside. So the hole is being filled up. And as I said, we expect full recovery of this, meaning everything all done and some sort of landscaping in place by next Wednesday, the latest. We still continue to maintain verbal with DEP, and we expect they will be coming up within the next day or two to get another look. So that's where we stand.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. when they put the new type of piping in, is there any type of like remote sensing capability that they incorporate when they do a replacement like this now?
No, not for this. This is actually right out of Y, where it comes out of the manhole right behind the station. The one thing we are going to do is a suggestion that's made, but it's not done really anywhere that we know of, because every time you run a length of pipe and you have a fitting, it changes if you were to ground it. So if you were running, 1,000 feet of pipe, you'd probably have to have, 15 to 18 grounds. And then you got to run those back, and it's almost impossible. So you don't find that done, and that's where the electrolysis comes in. The suggestion that was made that we are going to do, because we're so close to the pump station, we are going to ground the main as it comes out. Okay, so that should, in our opinion as well, help out with the fact that that distance out from there to where you go underwater and go across Deep Brook, will be covered with a grounding system as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Assistant Town Manager Michael McCall.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Manager. What I've been doing, in addition to what's been commented on before, is I've just been providing support to the various departments, including updating their websites with updated COVID-19 information, overseeing some of the day-to-day operations as they come in, including some procurement going along. And I'm working in the background to work with our insurance carrier to provide for some remote training opportunities for our staff. So some of those that are working remotely can continue with professional development, as well as earn the town some insurance credits. And as anything comes in from constituent needs, I'm reaching out and handling those to the extent we can during this crisis. And that's all I have, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Again, that's sort of a summary of where we're at. We're continuing to monitor, obviously, the health advisories from the federal and state level, and we're also keeping tabs on legislative efforts that are under consideration that may provide further either relief or modifications to municipal operations. So that's our report for today, Mr. Chairman.
Just one more quick question for Sue, if she's still on the call. Are we now reporting numbers again? I thought I saw on one of the Facebook pages that people are now.
Yes. So yesterday we had a discussion amongst the group of us that have been meeting regularly about this, and we're getting a lot of pushback from people in the community as well as the press that we were not publishing our numbers. So DPH had basically said that they were going to only publish numbers by county. They had originally asked that cities and towns follow suit, but the majority of our neighbors were not doing that. And we were one of the few that were not publishing numbers. So the difficulty is that we can publish the numbers, but the numbers are fluid and they're changing constantly. So a given snapshot in time is going to change 3-4 hours later. So as we're continuing to follow up on cases and whatever, we will update the numbers. I'm not saying that we're going to update them every day. We'll update them as often as we can, because the priority right now is following up on these cases, following up on the isolation and quarantine periods to keep people safe and to try to keep this from spreading. So yes, we did decide to publish the numbers.
Thank you, Sue. And one more note, I just want to put in a good word. I had a long call yesterday with Lisa Maroney in the business development office, and I think doing a great job trying to keep businesses up to date on the programs that are available through the state. She's there, I think, way above and beyond what her job calls her to do. And she's fielding calls from, to some extent, I think she's a little bit of a therapist. She's talking to these businesses that are really just trying not to go out of business through this whole situation. So I just want to, put a good word out for her, because I do think she's doing a great job. And available from the state and from the Small Business Association and the lending programs and such. she has that information. You can reach out to her. She's posted a lot on the town Facebook pages, and there's a lot on her page. So she's there as a resource as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a lot of other department heads and departments that are, that are stepping up as well. And clearly the Council on Aging is really meeting the needs of the seniors with the Meals on Wheels program, providing them with essential food and other contact during this crisis. And also the school department is doing an admirable job in terms of connecting with the students and also providing food and other, assistance to those in need during this time. So it's really been a tremendous collaborative effort, of which we all should be proud of.
I even go to further. I didn't mean to just point Lisa out as a department head, but I would think everybody. Paul, I stopped.
You cut out again.
Sorry about that. I stopped into town hall, and it does seem like everybody's pitching in, grabbing an oar and rowing. So it's a great effort by everybody. So thank you to everybody at town hall and throughout the town that's working for us.
So I just have a quick question too for Paul about some of the relief efforts that you mentioned more on the financial side. I know that we had received a couple of grants that I believe were supposed to be expended by June 30th, especially the MVP grant and then that grant that Lisa Maroney was working on for canoe development. Has the deadline for using those been extended?
We've not received any notice, but the expectation is that all these deadlines will be pushed back well into the next fiscal year. But they've been so sort of preoccupied with the immediacy of the COVID-19 crisis that a lot of these other matters are going to sort of get addressed in the wake of the immediacy.
Okay, sure, thanks.
And Emily, again, another text from Emily. She wants me to point out Jen Melanson too, doing a great job. So.
Yeah.
All right, that's all of the town meeting managers' reports. So with that, any other comments or questions?
I have just a couple of things. So I assume we're going to be doing a reverse 911 call later today or sometime in the near future. Could it include something about the postponed election and just notify people that absentee ballots are available and they can be requested up until the day before the election? Because I'm sure people are concerned about that. And I know most people did get the word that the election had been postponed, but just as a reminder on that.
Yes, it will, Pat. We're trying to do is not have too many calls, and so recognizing this meeting was coming, we will include the election information along with the tax information in one joint message.
Okay, and just one other note about the census. People still can fill out the census if they haven't done it yet. I know Chelmsford has been doing an excellent job on that. Staying ahead of the percentages for the state and the nation. So we still, and I know I've seen some notifications that you can't do it online anymore, but you still can. So whatever we can do to encourage that.
We have a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay.
The motion is second. We'll do roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
And I will vote aye also. So that's a 5-0. We'll see each other and we'll see everybody again on the next meeting.
Thank you.